to episode 4 of The Finchale End, and very, very special guest, Durham's first overseas player, Dino the Professor, Dean Jones. How are you, mate?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. It's nice to be able to speak to you, Ash.
Oh, mate, absolute pleasure on my part. Thank you for joining me. How's Melbourne at the moment? Melbourne's getting a bit more like the UK with regards to the COVID lockdown.
Well, we've just got 60 new cases today. 60 compared to you guys have got, what, thousands?
Yeah, that's true.
And we got down to about 4 or 5 a day, and we've just had a second outbreak. So I think the country's about to, well, particularly Victoria.
Yeah.
I think there's none in Queensland, none in South Australia, none in WA.
Yeah.
So we've been able to get some control over it.
Yeah.
I have to say that we've been a hell of a lot more disciplined about this insidious virus.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys don't get in England. 10 million people have got it, and 500,000 people have died from it. And yet I don't see there's any discipline or any understanding of how important how ugly this disease is. I think you've been very flippant, and it's going to hurt not just cricket, football, everywhere. Like it's just going to get smashed.
Oh, I think it's going to hurt life in general, mate. You're absolutely right there. Businesses will never see again, won't be able to recover, and obviously millions of people's lives impacted. But we'll put that aside, and we'll talk about happier things, which is our cricket. Just want to start off, Dean, if you can talk me through how you got into cricket. What are your earliest memories of cricket for you?
Well, my dad was captain coach for a team called Carlton. They actually a team in the AFL.
Yep.
He was coaching them for about 10 or 15 years or something. And as a boy, that was it, a 4 or 5 year old, I was going to the games where he was playing, and they were out fielding, and I was pulling apart their kits and throwing their bats and boots all over the club rooms. And I was a shocking child. I really was. And basically got in it from that. But like most Australian kids, they tend to like their AFL more so than their cricket. I liked my AFL more when I was a kid, but I just happened to be better at cricket, and we went down that track. But you only get 2 sports when I was a kid. It's either Aussie rules footy in the winter, and you play cricket in the summer.
Yeah, similar for me. I was rugby league. I was actually born in New South Wales, so it was rugby league for me growing up before we moved to Perth. So exactly the same. And you get to that age, I guess, where you make that choice as to which path you want to go down. And I think for everybody's sake, we're pretty pleased you chose cricket, mate.
Yeah, well, it's been a great journey. It really has, and I've been lucky enough. At the age of 13, I played district first 11 cricket, and my coach and captain was Keith Stackpole, who was the vice captain of Australia in 1972 to Ian Chappell, and we trained and played like AFL football teams. Yeah. Like literally smashed us. And we had 4 or 5 nets, and the first net, the seconds were the second set, the third set. And if you were half a sniffer playing in the first, you would be put in the first net for training. You think, oh, they're looking at me, and then they're fast bowlers. And I'm 13, 14, right? I haven't even gone through puberty. And these fast bowlers are trying to knock my head off, and what we call Jesus Christ me in the back of the net. And they thought it was funny trying to kill a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
So, and you use a Harrow-sized bat, and I'm playing against test players, literally test players. Oh, and it's dark, and we use balls like I haven't got one here, but not the Kookaburra balls. We used a ball called platypus back then, and that was dark. As dark as my phone. So, and all the senior players get hit at 4:30, and then the sun goes down, it's nearly black. Then the young kids get in. Now it's your turn to bat.
Absolutely.
So, but they taught you how to field, AFL training, running in 5Ks with pads on, all that type of stuff. It was just a great grounding to become a professional cricketer later on.
Brilliant. So how did that transition there from your club cricket into the Victoria system?
Well, to play, it's a bit different in Durham, a bit different in Yorkshire, etc. If you want to play for your club, play for Victorian state cricket, you have to play this league. It's called Premier League cricket. Well, back then it was. Anyway, so we played that, and if you did well, you get picked. And basically, I got a couple of good games, and it was an interesting thing. In 1981, I was a 20-year-old, and I've been playing at batting 7 and 6. I was a fast, medium, and an all-rounder type player. I was at 20. I liked batting more, but I could bowl good pace. And I went and played for All Tops in the Central Yorkshire League. Learned how to make my own bed, clothes, just learned how to live basically, and clean your clothes, and I worked down the coal mine. Yeah, did all that stuff. So it was, and worked at an Asda factory.
Yeah.
I did heaps of stuff. Yeah. You imagine Shane Warnes and these guys of today being able to do that? Like, no. Kidding. So it gave me a really good understanding that I'm pretty half decent at this. And then I went back to Carlton again, Keith Stackpot. I said, Stacky, you bat me 6 and 7. You guys are so good. I get a half an hour hit at the end of the day. And I'm the one that's got to try and make 40 or 50 not out off 30 balls in a 2-day match or a 1-day match. And I'm not getting the opportunities I want. I need to bat 3 or 4. And that's where you're batting. You've had your career.
Yeah.
Let me have mine.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the worst thing. So anyway, so Stacky said, righto, you smart ass. All right, you were playing against the #1 team, Melbourne Cricket Club, this week. We'll see how good you are. Now, Stacky opened the batting that particular match, and he made me bat 3 for the first time. So, and he got out first ball. So, oh God, here we go. So anyway, so I went out there and played against him, and I made 184 not out. I got 80 not out the next game. I got 50 on a wet pitch, 50 out of 70 on a wet pitch against Footscray that had Merv Hughes playing.
Yeah.
And the next game I was picked for Victoria. And I often say, if I didn't say it to Stacky to get the jump that I've done, for 5 years I've been batting 6, 7 and 8.
Yeah.
It's time for me to bat high. If I didn't say it, I think I'd still be batting there. So sometimes you just have the balls to back yourself, and that's basically happened right throughout my career.
That's awesome. Great story, mate. Great story. So how did that transform? So you obviously had a meteoric rise there in 4 or 5 games and getting picked in the Victoria squad. Then how did that transition into Australian cricket?
Okay, my first game was against WA, and they had Lily and all those guys playing, and I'll never forget coming off the ground. My first game, I was 38 not out. And at this time, Victorian cricket had just gone through a big change. They dropped Max Walker and a lot of guys because they weren't going to do well in the Shield that year. They can't make it. So they picked 3 kids. And those 3 kids were Dean Jones, Merv Hughes and Simon O'Donnell.
How old were you at that time?
20.
Okay.
21. So it was... and the rest of the Victorian players had the shits with us young punks coming in because the old blokes like Max Walker and that were there. So it was a bit ugly. So it was a bit of an ugly time. So I come off the ground. I'm 38 not out. I'm in the old dressing table. I can't believe looking at my name up on the Wacker scoreboard in blue and white Victorian colours.
Yeah.
Against WA with Lilly and Alderman, Yardley and all these guys, Graham Wood and all these guys up there. And I'm thinking, shit, this is... pinch me. Am I in a dream or something? And I'm just trying to get his name. Oh, it was Ray Bright. Actually, he said, everyone get a beer. Everyone get a beer. So they all got a beer, and he said, I want to raise a toast to Dino for his first game. You are the worst Victorian batsman I've ever seen play Victoria.
Wow.
Now, I thought he was taking the piss.
Yeah.
They said, no, you are a shocker. So what do? I'm just a young kid, so I've gone, oh, fine. So I put my beer down. I didn't drink it. And I just put my jeans and T-shirt and that, and I left the rooms and walked home to my hotel room. And welcome to state cricket. So
lovely team environment.
No, not great. So, and as it turned out, in 2 years' time, I was his vice captain. So, so anyway, but it was tough. It was a different school back then. Young kids were taught differently. It was hard school. And you can't. And I'm a coach. I do a lot of coaching in Karachi and in Pakistan and T10 leagues, etc. And you can't treat young kids like that. That's just not right, you know. And you could kill them, burn them off, and you know, kids will go. It affects their life big time. So, so anyway, but lucky enough, I come through a hard school with Carlton, and you know that was back then. You know, it was tough work. And then I got picked in the Australian team. And again, I had Rob Marsh give me a hard time because I put my bag in when I got in the room in Adelaide. You know, one day I played against Pakistan. I put my bag. I asked, "Can I put my bag there?" He said, "Yeah, sure." Unbeknownst to me, that's Rob Marsh's spot that has been for the last 10 years. Like, there's no names on lockers. It's just a locker, you know.
Yeah.
And then I got asked to go outside to do media something, and the next minute I heard my coffin being thrown 25 metres into the toilets and showers, and a few expletives. It must be said that that was it, really. I changed in the showers for my first game for Australia.
No way.
So, yeah. So things were a little bit different back then, and then I progressed. I got my first tours to the West Indies. And then we had a massive problem back then, Ash, because a lot of players have been asked, were being given. Now back then we were getting $400 a game for a test match.
Yeah.
My first ever Cricket Australia ball contract was $1,000, $400 a test. And now I've just been asked by Ali Bakar, from South Africa, $200,000 tax-free to go over. Now that could buy me a house in Toorak.
Yep.
What's the number one suburb, high-end suburb in Durham City? Give me a suburb.
Oh, Durham itself's pretty expensive, but then if you go up to Newcastle, you've got Gosforth and stuff like that. But yeah, I know where you're going.
Right. Can you imagine? I could buy a home there.
Yeah.
Cash. But I knocked it back. But the problem was in the '84 tour of the West Indies, half the team had been asked to go to the Rebel Tour, and guys like myself and Greg Matthews and Steve Smith, and different Steve Smith back then, we were young punks in the team. They treated us like dogs. And the fact that we also said, Greg Matthews and I said, no, we weren't going because we wanted to play cricket for Australia, because we were thought, well, you get banned for life if you go on this Rebel Tour of the apartheid. And I hated the apartheid and I didn't like what was going on, but I was very green anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell was going on in the world. I just wanted to play cricket for Australia. So, and they treated us like dogs. It was a shocking tour. And then I had to face Marshall, Garner, Roberts, Holding, and it's like, geez. And they ripped me a new one. They just ripped me a new one. They ripped me apart technically, mentally, physically, and I was insignificant at the end of the tour. I was done. And I had to rechange my attitude and change my career and my technique, and which I did. It took me 2 years to get it back.
Yeah.
And then my first test match back was the Madras Tide Test in 210, and it was a tie, and my life had changed.
Absolutely amazing stuff. Brilliant. So that's awesome, mate. How did signing for Durham come about?
I was going to sign for Yorkshire.
Okay.
I nearly signed for them, and then Ken Dulker signed for them. But Victoria won the Sheffield Shield, I think, in 1990-91, and they end up. We played a couple of games against Durham as warm-ups because we had to play against Essex because they won the championship.
Okay.
So Jeff just had a word to me, and yeah, we'd like to sign you up as a batter. I've had a word to Beefy, Dave Graveney, and all these guys. They want you on board. I said, good enough for me.
Yeah.
First overseas player to be with Durham, and it was hard work. You know, I was a pretty good player then. Around the world, I knew my game, particularly in one days, and that's what they wanted. I don't think they were expecting too much in the county championship.
Yeah.
But they wanted to do well in the Benson Hedges and etc. and the Sunday leagues, etc. So I didn't learn much about cricket, but I learned how to drink red wine.
I can imagine that.
And Wayne Larkin. Wow. But it was. I met some of the most beautiful people. Now, the further north you go in England, you meet better people. I'm sure of that. And unfortunately, we had a great year. I think we finished 6th or 7th in the county championship, and we did well in the one days, etc. And we had a great year. And I was supposed to sign the next year because I was expected to come in '93 for the Ashes.
Yeah.
And I didn't get picked, and they ended up picking Anderson Cummins, and the rest was history. I didn't get a chance to get back. So there you go.
Absolutely amazing. Chubby told the story, Simon Brown, around the first game down at the racecourse where you beat Lancashire, and he sung your praises, saying that they were only expected to go out and kind of compete with a great Lancashire side at the time, but you kind of guided the boys home. So he sung your praises at that time. I can imagine it would have been quite a celebratory evening after that game.
Well, it was. It was a full house. Didn't need much. You threw a dog in there. I think there was 6,000 or 7,000 fitted in there. And they were the champions too, the champion one-day team. And they were floating around, they were strutting around to Freitas and these guys, Fairbrother and whatnot. And we put on a good score. And the one big thing was Beefy. We were on top, but they were starting to get away from us. And he bowled this innocuous half volley as Beefy does, and then someone smashed it back. I can't remember, maybe Fairbrother or someone. And Beefy's such an athlete back then, and it just went slap into his right hand, a caught and bowl where he had to dive almost horizontal. And I'm like gobsmacked. And then he turned around and let's win this bloody game, And I thought, geez, it's a bit like Terry Alderman knocking over Robin Smith at Lord's in '89. And it's something you can't teach people how to win.
Yeah, it's that drive, isn't it?
Oh, and Beefy just knew that all the other guys, Chubby and all these other guys and the young guys in the team, started to think, well, hey, we're going to beat Lancashire. And as it turned out, we did. And when the crowd come on and into our little rooms and all that, and Beefy just had a bath and we're drinking beers and red wine and but it wasn't an overnight success. It took a couple of years for the committee to get together and to get the squad that they wanted, and with Dave Graveney and co, and it was just phenomenal. It was really cool, really cool.
How did you find that mix? Because there was quite a lot of experienced guys and a lot of young local Northeast guys. How did you find that mix, and how did you, being the first overseas player, there's quite a lot of responsibility to you to kind of impart your knowledge on those younger guys. How did you find that?
The old blokes, the Wayne Larkins and Paul Parkers and these guys just let me do what I wanted to do, basically. And they were watching me, and I prided myself in being fit and be good in the field. And I remember we had a young left-hander. His name was Lenny Hunton. Yeah. And we were playing Derby at Derby, and just can't remember. One of their big quicks was at Holding, or they had 4 or 5 quicks. Real big name as Bishop or one. I can't remember. These
Devin
guys
Malcolm
running
or somebody like that was down.
Devin Malcolm was playing from Big Dev. Should know. I was a captain of their team 5 years later. But Lenny's gone to Wayne Larkins. How do you play a guy when he's bowling at 150 kilometres an hour? And he said, Lenny, where are you batting? He said, I'm batting at 6. He said, that's right, because you're not going to get a hit after 2 o'clock, so don't worry about it. So let Dino, myself, and Paul Parker and all these guys worry about how to face these guys. You just sit, watch and learn, and then you just play accordingly. So it was sort of funny. He was shitting himself. And I don't blame him to a point, because Dev could bowl decent at the age of 40. Yeah. So it was good fun. But and John Glendenning is a very, very good player as well. And then Blink Iron and these fellows, and Andy Fothergill. We had a half decent team. And I think they learned a lot from the way we went about our work, and it was another new lease of life for blokes like Dave Graveney and Paul Parker and Wayne Larkins, and that's Dad's army a little bit. And every county we went to play, it was a celebration of the new county. We're going to have a new, which is good, because we only got £13 per diems back then, I reckon. And everyone was trying to save their money. And I was, there's a celebrating cocktail party tonight for the Durham, our first ever county championship. Yep, we're going to that.
I did.
It's free dinner, free drinks. So, yeah, it was a different time back then. It really was. Nobody wanted to go out with both of them because you'd spend all your per diems in one night with him, and he only drinks the 50-pound wines and all that type of stuff. And even I was doing okay, but I couldn't afford what he was doing. So we would have a roster who would go out with him tonight. All right, I'll go out with him tonight, but you're going tomorrow night, and you're going with, So we did that a fair bit on the way through, but
Brilliant.
It was really cool. It was really cool.
Great stuff. What outside of the cricket, what are your memories of the Northeast?
What I remember was, firstly, we played on all the grounds, Hartlepool to just heaps of different Gateshead Feld, all these different grounds that we played on, which is sort of really cool in a way because we had a lot of different. You have to play on these awful pitches. Like facing Kirtley Ambrose on some of these pitches is hard work. I'm going to tell you. So it was a bit of a problem. But I just remember the wonderful people that we had. Different styles of people or fans will go and watch us on each different ground, which is really cool in a way. But up north, like I saw my daughter, she's 29 now, for God's sake. She may have had her first steps in the Sedgefield pub, walking from Ian Botham to my legs. In the pub, and she just got up out of nowhere, grabbing hold of Ian's knees and walked across to me.
No way.
And I'll never forget that, So all that type of stuff was really good. I always felt that I was one of their own. Plus the fact that my mother-in-law is also a Geordie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but sadly she had a tough life where at the age of 5 that she was put with her sister on her mother back then in the old days, that she was put on a boat because they couldn't afford to keep them.
Yeah. And
sent to orphanages in Australia. That's what they did back then.
Wow.
So, but there was that connection, and she came back in '92 to see all the past relatives, and it was a celebration of life. It was really cool. And then the other big one was Ian Botham and I dug up the first sods of the new ground in Riverside. So but there was, and the people wanted to know, well, because the first couple of years on that pitch there, did a fair bit. It nipped around a fair bit, and I'll tell you why. Because there was a tree. There's a tree right where we dug up, right where the square is. There was a massive tree. It must have been 30 foot high.
No way.
Anyway, they pulled that out, and the rest was history.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So you're still involved in cricket, probably. I mean, I'm a bit of a cricket fanatic. I read a little bit, and probably not as much as you would like to be, especially at home. But you're still quite involved in cricket, especially in the subcontinent.
Yeah, I am. I've been to India now over 184 times.
Wow.
I count because it's in my passport, so I can't do that. I'm contracted to Star Sports, and we do commentary and analysts in the game. And I coached the Karachi Kings, and I was in the Pakistan Super League.
Yeah.
Previously, for 4 years, I was the coach of Islamabad United, and we won twice at the PSL and come third twice. I got the sack. Can you believe that? Can you imagine that happened in England football? If I got 2 championships in 4 years and I got the sack. And anyway, I went to Karachi. Karachi picked me up, and we beat Islamabad twice, and they finished bottom, and we finished in the top 2. So cop that. So paid back in full. But and I coached in T10, etc., and I commentate all around the world. So I'm very fortunate to be involved in this great game, and I love coaching more than commentary now. I have to say, it's I really, really enjoy it. I'm looking maybe to try and get a county gig. Okay. We'll see what happens in the future, but it's helping a young kid realise their dreams and push your team to win from basic nothing to create a foundation, and then organise a game plan and understand what piece the puzzles do. He does that, he fits in here, he fits in there. and having your game plan, making sure we win it, and that's what's happened. I think it's been a lot of fun. The journey's been great, you know. And I'm 59 years of age, and I feel like I'm 40. I still like I've got so many years ahead of me. So it's been good.
Oh, great stuff, great stuff. Right, I'm just going to run through something that I've run through with the boys.
Yep.
Kind of 6 or 7 questions to finish off. So, run me through your favourite grounds to play at, and that can be anywhere in the world.
I never liked Lords, never,
Really?
even though I'm honorary life member. England-wise, my favourite ground would be the Oval.
Okay.
Or maybe because I've always done well there. I've always liked Adelaide, no matter what, whether it's people there or not. Adelaide's been good. MCG when it's full. People have no idea when the 100,000 people is there playing. You have no idea what it's like. So it's just a hoot. And probably in India, it's Eden Gardens. So, yeah, but MCG when it's full, it's not great when it's not full, I have to say. But the best ground day in, day out has always been Adelaide Oval for me.
And can you remember any of your out grounds in the northeast when you played here? Can you remember any particular favourites?
I've always liked Hartlepool.
Yeah.
I always liked that little ground. Yeah, I don't know why. I just that one. Gateshead Feld was sort of nice as well. I remember I got hit in my cheek by Marty McCaig. I'm just trying to think of the coach of Kent, ex Western Australian, Foster, Daryl Foster.
Yeah.
And as I was going off the ground, I've got my face like this, and Ian Botham's getting ready to come out after me. And I know I broke my cheekbone, smashed my cheekbone. And Daryl Foster was laughing at me because the game was on edge. It was a bit of argy-bargy in the match. And Beefy did a U-turn, walked in their rooms and got Foster by the neck and whacked him up against. I'll never forget this. And I'm coming off. I can only see out of one eye. I said, Beefy, come here. I was like, you'll get yourself in trouble. And that had a bit of argy-bargy about it. But Gateshead Feld was nice. But Hartlepool I've always liked playing at.
Yeah, lovely.
Don't know why.
Going back to your story earlier about being 15, 16, somebody trying to kill you in the nets. Martin McCaig did that to me in Scarborough. It was one of the barrage of quicks that I had the pleasure of copping on a Tuesday.
He could bowl good heat, Marty.
Yeah. Definitely he could.
Yeah, he could bowl. And you know, Payback's a bitch too. Because he went back to WA. And I made 250 against him at the whacker, and I kept whacking it at him. I just reminded him, said, "Hey, payback from Gateshead Feld, Paul." So I didn't need much encouragement, but I got him that day. But he's a good bowler, Marty McCaig.
Yeah, he was.
Good try.
Good bloke too. Good bloke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nicknames. How many nicknames have you got? I bet you've had a few over the years.
A few people call me a few experience, no doubt. If you were well liked, that means you couldn't play. Dino or Legend, that'll do, probably. Ledge, something like that.
Cool.
Mainly Dino.
Yeah. So 3, again, looking back at Durham when your time here, 3 of those blokes that you would take on a night out.
Oh, who's paying?
Let's say Beefy's picking up the tab.
Oh, here we go. John Glendenning, 1. Andy Fothergill, 2. Oh, Beefy, of course, he's paying. Wayne Larkins could have a good sip. David Graven, I always enjoyed his company. Paul Parker, no, he'd have one beer and he'd be pissed. No, he'd be...
so he'd be on your night out if you were paying?
Oh, yeah, correct. But he was the one that actually invented the slide in the field. People forget this. A lot of you see the players down when the ball's hitting the outfield, they slide on one knee and they get up to throw and throw it back in. Yeah. He would run out 15 guys a year because he was the first guy who did that. Paul Parker.
Right. Cool.
And he was my driver, co-driver all around Durham. I did not want to go anywhere near Wayne Larkins. Grav always drove around with Julie, his wife, or Beefy. And so Paul was happy to drive us around. So that was sort of really cool. Yeah.
Where did you live when you were in the northeast?
Durham City.
Okay.
Yeah. We lived there, which is really cool. And then Barton, we lived for the following year. I was the coach of the seconds and they got me in because they felt upset because I didn't get picked for the Ashes, so they got me to come across.
Okay.
So I played a couple of games in the twos, and I stayed at a beautiful little village town called Barton. You know where it is?
Nah, never heard of it actually.
Just out of Scotch Corner, it's the next turn off towards Durham.
Right, yeah.
From Scotch Corner, and I loved that because other guys had another half an hour to go.
Yeah, and you were pulling in.
And I'm home. Yeah, it was lovely.
That's probably another thing that people wouldn't realise, especially anybody from Australia that's listening. The amount of driving that you would have had to have done in the county game is obscene.
That A1, I don't know whether they're ripping it up or putting it down. I had no idea. I prided myself on batting, and I saw it with Derbyshire as well, that, okay, we can't win. I'm sure as hell not going to give them a win. We're going to bat, and we're going to bat. And teams will just get out because they want to beat the traffic to get home.
Yeah.
And they do so many miles. I didn't really get that. And I'm so surprised now, Ash, that thank God, touch wood, that we haven't had too many guys killed on roads and etc. because of fatigue.
Yeah.
You know, like we played, I'll tell you what, we played a one-day game at Darlington. That was a lovely town. That's a lovely, beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Lovely town. We played one day there. Then that night we drove all the way down to Hampshire to play a one-dayer, play the next day, which we won. And then we drove all the way back that night to play Hampshire the next day in Darlington.
That's crazy.
Now, who does these fixtures?
That's crazy.
You know how many miles that is? And we won that game too. That was our first ever win in county championship cricket.
Okay.
That was really cool. So there's a few nice spots we went to there at Darlington after that win.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's got a bit better in the last probably 10 years now that the guys travel on buses everywhere, because totally agree with you, having to play in ridiculous locations, and then obviously we probably had the worst of it travelling back to the northeast all the time. It was horrendous, and you're absolutely right. I don't know how somebody didn't, have a tragic accident through fatigue after a day's cricket and then having to drive 6 or 7 hours is mental.
One story I must say, Ian Botham, part of his deal, because he always had good wheels, good cars, he got this unbelievable U-Butte Mercedes, and he kept talking how good it was, right? Oh, and we saw it was like, wow, he's got a good deal, Beefy here, and it's cost him a fortune to get Beefy to play for Durham, etc. And he's talking about how beautiful, and his car was, the Mercedes was mint. Well, one night he went into Durham, and I think he was going to, she's named me a couple of good Durham footballers. Maybe Dalglish or someone was up there as well. I don't know.
Okay.
He's had dinner with them, right? Well, the very next day, I'm expecting to hear all this because he was talking about he's going to see his mates, the Newcastle football team.
Might be Kevin Keegan or somebody.
Might be I think it was Kevin Keegan.
Right? Yeah.
So he's gone to this posh restaurant, etc. And I'm waiting to hear all the story. All the boys gathering around like father and son, father telling sons a story. And Beefy was really quiet. We didn't see Beefy coming into the rooms. And Beefy doesn't do warm-ups. Beefy warm-up was a bath. He hopped in the bath. That was his warm-up. He didn't go out a little. So he walked out on the ground, and Beefy's bowled a couple of balls, a couple of overs. And Andy Fothergill's looked up, and we were playing at the Durham racetrack ground, and we could see this lorry coming into the ground with the Mercedes on top, and it's got no wheels on it. Where's the wheels? And the whole game stopped, and Beefy at the top of his mark says, "The bastards pitched them up at Newcastle." So the lorry had to bring it down, and they left the car in the car park before he got some wheels put on. Oh, they took all these wheels wherever he parked the car in that posh restaurant. Jeez, that was funny. I'll never forget that. Never forget that.
That's awesome. Going back to those days, and you mentioned there who's paying. Who in that squad would have been the last bloke to get the round in?
Paul Parker.
Right.
Well, we had a pretty good. Boys liked a bit of a sip. Oh, Hutton probably. He was a bit tired. Yorkshire boy. wasn't too many.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and the great thing, there wasn't too many cliques either. What I remember, you know, everyone was all part of it. They felt part of it, which is really good. Bryce was there. He's a good lad. He's a good cricketer. Black Goring was there as well. He didn't go on that he should have, but no one felt out. Everyone was welcome. It was just like an old family. It was really cool, the way it was done, and I just really enjoyed playing there, you know, and I still got my cap on the wall around the corner in my home. It's my number 3 cap player. I think I'm number 3, or is it number 6? Goes in alphabetical order, doesn't it?
I'm not sure, mate. I'm not sure. Couldn't tell you.
I think it is. I think I'm number 3. Anyway, it doesn't really matter anyway. But you know, I enjoyed playing. You know, and I had the experience of playing at Derbyshire, and even though we missed out on winning the championship by 2 points, you know, I wasn't treated well there at all by the committee and by the owners and whatnot. So it was a horrific time. But I always look back with Durham in fondness on how great it was. And healing the chance of Dino, which is really cool, which was really good fun. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Last couple of questions and then I'll let you go. If you won the lottery and we put a couple of $1 million in your bank account, what would you do with it?
Well, we don't need one of them because we've got those. Ashes. I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. To be honest, I don't know what I'd do with it. I'm pretty happy. I'm not a wealthy man at all, but I don't think £2 million would change my life. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do with it. I don't have extravagant things like beefy or anything like that type of stuff. I don't need that type of stuff. You can't buy a golf game. You've got to be able to work at it. You can't buy a game of being a batsman. You've got to work at it. So the best things you ever got in your life are the things you earned, not given to you.
Fair shout, fair shout. Last question, mate, is if an actor was to play the story of your life, who would you choose to be that actor?
Gee, I don't know, Brad Pitt probably. Someone who can throw a punch, something like that. Who's quick, good looking. Oh, what else would you want? I don't know. I don't know. Who would I have? Oh, I wouldn't have a clue who could play me. It's funny you should say this because I'm actually coming up with a thing for a film as we speak. Okay. Writing a film on the Ashes. And the actual Ashes is not about what happened at the Oval and they burned the Ashes and all that. It's actually a love story between Ivo Bly and Florence Morphy, who was an Irish woman in Australia. Okay. And they met up, and it was her perfume urn that he gave him, and they were married through that. And he wanted a memento of the dalliance they had together and all that. And she was a commoner. He came from aristocracy. We still really don't. I've got all the details now. We're trying to put it all together now. Having an Ashes movie to do it, and looking hopefully maybe Elton John to write the music for it. Maybe could we get into a stage show as well. But the Ashes is not about England versus Australia, the biggest rivalry in sport. It's actually a love story between a guy from aristocracy and a poor Irish woman, like 10 minutes down the road from me in Sunbury, where they actually met and they had an affair and whatnot. They courted and they didn't want them to marry. He told his mum and dad off. He wasn't happy. He can't marry a commoner. And he hopped on a boat called the Peshawar, believe it or not. The ship wrecked off the coast of Sri Lanka. Right. Yeah, he was. And Ivo Bly got a rowboat, got into Colombo and got to India, and then got another boat out to Australia, and he proposed to her. Wow. And so the Ashes is not about Australia and England. It's actually a love story. So, awesome. And she went on to do beautiful things, and she became a dame and actually hire an aristocracy to do wonderful work for children handicapped soldiers and injured soldiers, and she was brilliant in what she did. And sad family right throughout the Ivo Bly family. It's got his brothers and lots of mental problems and all that type of stuff. But it'll be an interesting film. Hopefully we can get it off the ground as we speak.
I look forward to that, mate. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Well, Dean, that's all we've got for tonight, mate. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Best of luck with the movie, and once again, thanks for your time.
Pleasure talking to you, Ash. All the best. Take care, bud.
Good on you, mate. Thank you.
Bye-bye.